Can we hear an amen? Right on! 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 Can we hear an amen? Right on!
I really wanted to start this off with similar, like, rambling nonsense that starts the album we're discussing today, but my mind is literally blown, so I can't do shit. So, standard opening it is. Sorry, everybody, I have disappointed.
We would not be blowing minds immediately, no. Anyway, yes, Joe, what are we talking about today? Because this is going to be a very you episode, because I have heard of this band in passing, but as I think we've sort of said before, my sort of tastes in 90s British electronic music is more the Bristol Channel sort of bits, and people like, Massive Attack and Portishead and Tricky and that sort of stuff. And this is a group I am vaguely aware of, but not in the same sort of way. And obviously they are from a very different scene and indeed a different genre.
Yes. They're from Big Beat, from what I understand, except not quite. They could go under a lot of genres. So we are talking about the Lo Fidelity All-Stars and their big debut album, How to Operate with a Blown Mind.
Yeah.
And this was an interesting band just because where they started is not where they went and where they are now. And we'll talk about that later, but they had a really interesting start, and a lot of people registered it, but like Rolling Stone gave them a 3 out of 5 review, and that's what they put on the album cover, like over the plastic, and like, here's a review to get you to read this, and it's like 3 out of 5. So, and they said it was the catchiest post everything, like techno or whatever they said, since Fatboy Slim, which was, fitting because they were under Fatboy Slim's label.
Yeah, Skin Records,
yeah. But it is very apt in that they had something, but the question is, what do we do with it?
Yeah.
And that is the biggest question you listen to, or you have when you listen to it, because they obviously have hooks for days. There is something to their approach, and the only problem is, like, does it gel? Does it come together? And at times it does, and then at times it's just, I have been listening to this song for how many minutes? And it feels like 3 different songs, and I don't know. But
it's one of those, as I think we've discussed in obviously on the podcast again. This is sort of one of the the end of the 90s. I think as we discussed before at quite some length, everybody sort of went a little bit electronic. U2 went electronic, these bands went electronic. Everybody was sort of dabbling in this sort of new and exciting thing. Madonna was doing electronic, music with, Ray of Light. Everybody at this sort of point in the night, by 98, 99, is sort of, ooh, this is a new shiny thing. We can do, things with, samplers and, drum loops and stuff, and you can get in some bespectacled producer like, William Orbit or somebody of that ilk to do all the machinery while you sort of sing over the top. And it sort of has the other sort of problem, I think, it's so much that it is a problem. It's like one of these sort of late 90s embarrassment of riches albums, because this is nearly like a full CD length of music.
Yes. All of the songs are very long, and it goes the distance. And does it need to be this long? No, absolutely not. There could have been some hard edits that could have cut half the length of the songs, but they went for it. They did it, and I mean, to the credit and their detriment. Like, they did it really well, but did they need to?
Yeah.
And this is one of our numbered episodes. This is not one of...
This is number 24.
The anniversary one, so we're not like... So, I don't know. I will sometimes bring up albums like this that, like, I didn't make anything of this. Can you make anything of this? And the answer is probably no. But, I did, like, learn a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes we can't, spend every Thom and Joe episode talking about groundbreaking, bits of things. This is something that Joe likes. I liked bits of this, and certain bits of this, I kind of went, there's a couple of tracks as you said, because they are long, and I was like going, how long have I accidentally put this on repeat? Because this feels like it's been going on for like 20 minutes at this point. And I like long tracks on music. I like long tracks on electronic music. I like electronic music, but there's like some of this feels like you're in like almost like a bad experience, sort of a bad trip, and you sort of like there's this guy, beat poeting at you, and there's a lot of electronic noises going, things being sort of bleepy bloop going on in the background, and this is a very much a mood album. Like, this is one of these albums I think you could, like other bands that I think we've talked about, like Portishead, this is a very sort of 3 o'clock in the morning sort of album.
Well, it's different because it's Northern England, and they were based in Brighton for a little bit. But as the story will go, they had to change very, very quickly and become something else. And I get what this thing is doing. It's sort of like when you're really on a heavy amount of whatever drugs they gave you, and you are still fighting to party, you're still fighting to go out, you're still being out there, but you are just like, the drugs aren't like doing the up thing anymore. They aren't getting you in a better mood. You are a zombie just moving on, whatever event is happening that night and whatever you are on. That is
like an experience I'm absolutely sure that High Fidelity All-Stars have experienced, because they strike me as the sort of people who probably did. Let's start at the beginning. Who are these people, Joe? Because obviously, who are these people kind of very much changes as we'll get on to.
Their members were from various places in Northern England, not surprising. And they were... you caught me reading the Wikipedia. So they started in Leeds, and then they went to London, because everybody goes to London. And then they got, major record label. And then they signed with Skit Records, which is Fatboy Slim's label, and then they went to Brighton, where everybody else was.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Brighton sort of ended up as this sort of haven of, like, electronic music. Obviously, Fatboy Slim is more based in Brighton, and, the dance culture around Brighton is sort of like another enclave of, electronic music, and obviously you have the queer scene there, and obviously in Brighton where, a lot of it is, big, loud electronic music while you take drugs. That's what people do in Brighton. Yeah. And they've all got nicknames, haven't they? They've all got like various like alter egos, at least for this album.
The lead singer, and I dare guess he was the main creative mind until the second album, but is Dave Randall, also known as the Wrecked Train. And with 2 Ks instead of a CK. God
knows what these nicknames like originate from. He's Dave Randall's vocal style is kind of where I attached immediately to this record and went, I understand this, because basically the Dave Randall vocals. So I'm going to talk briefly about it. There was a band called The Fall, and they are like really big, seminal, British post-punk band. Fronted, well, basically the famous joke with The Fall is, everybody has been in The Fall, and The Fall is basically, if it's Marky Smith, the guy who was like the only continual member of The Fall, and your nan on bongos, it's The Fall. And he has this, Marky Smith had this very... Marky Smith hated the term stream of conscience. It is this very strange, sort of like almost street drunk, rambling sort of, northern great of a voice, which, I don't know if Dave Randall is deliberately trying to do the voice, or do a voice like that, or is he... I am absolutely adamant that Dave Randall has listened to The Fall, because there is a lot of Marky Smith's delivery and, strangeness, these sort of almost free associative, hopping from topic to topic, which is typified by the intro of this album, where he basically, this sort of delirious sort of strangeness sort of immediately appears. Yeah.
It's like, I've had a lot of like strange ways of describing it, and it's like, one of them is if Noel Gallagher went back in time, joined Pink Floyd, and invented disco.
Yeah,
or something
it's
like
an
that.
album. It's an album which defies real things. Like one could compare, and obviously, Joe, you're probably a little bit more au fait with them because they're more your favourite, more a band you like. There's elements that did remind me of Underworld, where it's again this sort of like electronic music meets sort of beat poetry sensibility, but with this, it's like Randall is just, I can imagine just the band putting the tracks together, and then Randall just walks in, probably carrying like an unidentified bottle in a bag, sits down at the mic and just delivers these rambling sort of screeds of strange, inner city weirdness. Except on one track, which is probably the best track on the album.
Yeah, it's comparable to Underworld, but where Underworld are more deliberate, abstract artists. Like they are still painting a picture, and it will still resemble something. There is this feeling that they are someplace, they are doing something, and that's all they know, or that's all that the Dave Randall character knows.
Completely. The Underworld feel like they're in the same room. Dave Randall seems like he's sort of rambling across God knows Brighton or London, bottle in hand, delivering this to anybody who'll listen.
Somewhere in northern England
somewhere in northern England
as well.
Are we going to talk about like what happened to these guys before we go through the record? Because this is where it gets weird.
It is where it gets weird. So, like, if you look on their page, they have members and former members. And you will find under former members Dave Randall and John Stone, aka Sheriff John Stone, which is, he was a keyboard programmer. And
probably the
that
other
was a very,
sort of like,
very specific incident. So they got famous mainly from their single Battle Flag featuring Pigeon Head, but it's spelled H-E-D because it was the late 90s and everyone would spell head with an ED rather than H-E-A-D. It was a very strange time. And they were, on the strength of it, they were going to go on their world tour. And about the morning before, their manager gets a phone call from Dave Randall that he is quitting the band, and as a part and parcel to this, so is John Stone. And like that morning, they're like sweating bullets trying to figure out, oh my god, we start our world tour today. How the fuck do we do this?
Yeah.
And that kind of forced them into a transformation where they essentially didn't have a main vocalist. And sometimes there would be songs where there would be nobody there for a vocalist because either, you know, they didn't have one for this specific song, or they, you know, just chose to perform it without whatever Dave Randall had to add to it.
And so, I do feel for what Dave Randall does. You know, if you listen to sort of obviously their second record, which is Don't Be Afraid of Love, it's so radically different. It might as well be a different group of people.
Yeah, it feels like they had to move towards the center of, you know, whatever Fatboy Slim, whatever electronic techno was doing in Great Britain in 2002. They still had sort of what they, you know, the essence of what they were doing, which is like, what I want to say is pub techno is like how I would say it, like, but they don't have the dark disco anymore.
Yeah,
they're trying to be like more like Jackson 5, like an exploitation film soundtrack, or something like that. It's trying to be like late 70s, like funk, or whatever sound, even going as far as getting Bootsy Collins involved.
Yeah, like that's what you know.
If
he comes with every electronic music album.
Yeah, if you know Fatboy Slim, he's going to give you Bootsy Collins' number, and he will do a song for you.
Yes, that's what Bootsy does. And then Bootsy goes back to doing whatever the hell Bootsy Collins does otherwise, which is whatever the hell Bootsy Collins does. Yeah, but it's electronic music 101. You do an electronic album, you in the vague vicinity of Fatboy Slim, you either get like one, like some 70-year-old reggae guy, like Massive Attack, or you get John Lydon, like how Left Field does it. Or Bootsy Collins turns up. He just turns at your door and go, yeah, you got a track I can sing on? Yeah, cool, let's go. Show me to your studio. It's mandatory. You have to have one of those three on a track.
And by 2009, when they came up with Northern Stomp, they kind of had their sound down, which is what I would call pub techno. It's very like what you would probably listen to if you went into a bar in Northern England, and it kind of has that attitude, and they sort of solidified their identity. And Northern Stomp is a good album as well. Like I like Don't Be Afraid of Love, but it is like one of their tracks showed up on Frequency, which is the old PlayStation 2 game.
Oh boy.
Which started the rhythm things, which led into Guitar Hero. Like, yeah, it was the first game that it was the gateway drug into all of that, to Rock Band and all of this other stuff. And
it's a bit safe.
Like,
it's a bit safe.
It's very safe. Low Fidelity in Ibiza is the name of the track.
Oh, bloody,
which you know, that's very telling of how different they were.
Yeah, it's chanted in Australia and on the US dance charts apparently, which should indicate like how adrift from the zeitgeist they were, that they was just you know, charting in Australia 79th in the charts twice, which would indicate like if you are sort of generally charting in Australia and like on the specialist charts in like a country, your sort of cultural cachet is a little bit gone.
Yeah. It's to be fair, also Dave Randall never recovered, but like from the stuff I read, it was just like he is very much a far left musician who wanted to do a lot of experimental things. He has like bands and he's helped with people, but like what he's created has never like really bubbled up. I don't know if he actually wanted to do this, wanted to actually get super famous like they just did, and
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. Um, like they don't really know either because they just got a phone message and then bye.
Yeah. I mean,
But they just kind
it's
of
worth
moved along.
it's worth noting that Low Fidelity All-Stars haven't released an album since 2009. That album has no Wikipedia page, and they've not been really troubling the charts since like the late 90s, early 2000s. You know, this is a band who are happily sitting in their niche of doing music for northern pubs. But anyway, back to what
Yes.
we were talking about, which is like the actual record we have in front of us. Can we start with the cover, because there is a lot going on this cover.
Yes. Absolutely. It is very much a artistic expression of like somebody with a blown mind and
Yeah.
possibly trying to operate with it.
Yes, it's one of these sort of very late 90s sort of like electronics, you know, computer done sort of like melange of objects sort of thing. It sort of really weirdly reminds the font is very strange. The font sort of more reminds me of something of like early 2000s sort of, you know, new metal sort of thing. It has it's a decent, you can see from like the fact that this is you know, we've had to sort of work around this cover for the actual, obviously, the podcast thumbnail, that this is sort of like something we've tried to work out the best we can around. It's it's an interesting image
Because yeah, Low Fidelity has one font, and All-Stars has one font, and then How to Operate with a Blown Mind has its own font,
Yeah.
and they're all extremely different, and they all have different background shading, and Low Fidelity doesn't. It's just this fancy pants. I mean, it reminds me of like some sort of something from the 70s, at least the font does. Like, it has 70s exploitation film font, and then it just has this abstract art in the background, which reminds me
Yeah.
of Underworld. There's a hand. There is, like,
yeah
a place where you can put, like, your amplifier. There's, like, a piece of an amplifier. There's a lighter. And
yeah
there's this thing in the middle that looks like a face. It might be a face. It might be just something that you're
There's a truck in
hallucinating
there
a face
somewhere.
into.
There's a
Yeah.
truck in there somewhere. Yeah, it's a very 90s album cover, and like the majority of the rest of their album covers are basically what appear to be either stock photographs from an unknown period or something of that ilk. You know, the rest of their album covers are basically, here's a building and the building is sort of doing its thing. Yeah. I mean, they look very nice lads in their photographs. They look, you know, very decent sort of chaps, but you know, they are
Yeah.
a bunch of northern lads who, you know, all sort of dress like northern lads. You know, that's fine. You know, there's nothing outlandish going on with them. The album cover is a very 90s album cover, and then you start listening to this thing, and oh boy.
Yeah. And they don't. It doesn't sound like nice lads.
No. It sounds like somebody having what is basically best described as a psychotic episode.
It is best described as like if Requiem for a Dream took place in Great Britain.
Yes. Which is like, and it's this strange, so we begin with a strange monologue from Randall over sort of minimalist electronic music, which is the frankly beautifully named Warming Up the Brain Farm. And obviously Low Fidelity All-Stars really like the term Warming Up the Brain Farm because that's what they called their best of.
Mm-hmm. And also they called their facility in Brighton the Brain Farm.
The Brain Farm. Yes. What is
Yes.
called to mind of sort of like something like, I don't know, the Brain Farm. And it's this strange sort of, you know, strange monologue from obviously Randall of sort of, you know, lethal toxins and
we're performing an experiment on this poor common man, and we're just hopping him up with all of this alcohol and drugs, and we're going to send him out into the world, I think is kind of the setup of this.
Yes, it has got probably the best of the best. This sort of it is very beat. This is like something you could imagine Allen Ginsburg doing on the first draft of Howl, going this line of he dreams of becoming a scorpion who never sweats. Frankly, I'm sickened to have this individual infiltrate my headspace.
Yeah, and Howl is my favorite poem of all time. So
Ginsburg's fantastic, but it's
yeah, it is definitely that. But then we move on, and then it's kind of what you're going to be expecting, but it's now we have beats, and now we have cool rock bass.
Yeah, cool rock bass is great. I had to listen to this about 3 times, and like the first time I really liked the first half of the album, which is the very big sort of dancey, big, the typical big beat half of the album, and then I sort of liked the second half of the album. Basically the material post-battle flag, where it's like this very weird sort of like coming down sensibility, and then I sort of went back to the third time, and it's like, no, they're both interesting halves, but there is a surfeit of material. It's like there is so much of this drunken ramble through whatever city you choose that you sort of get lost, and there's sort of little asides that little you go down cul-de-sacs and go, where the fuck am I, and go back out again. Cool rock bass is great. It's where we start to obviously hear the rest of the band, including the bass is played by a one-man, the gentleman who describes himself as a one-man crowd called Gentile, who I think is the real... Let me go grab his real name 1 second. This is a gentleman called Andy Dickinson. Yes.
That sounds like a guy from Great Britain who was in a band.
Yes,
there's
many bands.
One of the most Great Britain names where, this guy would probably play bass in a band or something.
Yeah, something like that. It's like that's fine. The bass work on this is fantastic. It is sort of the bass is sort of the instrument that sort of holds all this electronic sort of stuff together, because there's not much compared to like a lot of the big beat. There's not as much guitar work as something like, I don't know, the Propeller Heads, where there is that sort of sensibility. But
but cool rock bass is probably the best proof of concept of what they are doing, because there is that definitely that bass or that bass line that is going down that is extremely addictive, and it is very much a dance club song, but there's a separate vibe where it is very harsher, it is very deeper. It is reaching for something different than, we're on E and we're gonna, have a great time with all these flashing lights and, whatever else with the hippie flippin' rich kids, as Dave Holmes would call them. This is, we're having a good time in, some kind of club in northern England, and it is there's lights, but it still has this dark, menacing vibe, and there is still all of this how to describe their feel is they intentionally go low fidelity, that is not just a name. There's a lot of fuzz. There's on a record, it has that feeling of fuzz. They use a lot of quotes from exploitation films or some older stuff. It wouldn't surprise me if most of these came from the 60s or the 70s. And it has that feeling of New York, where there are definitely parts of New York you do not go in the 70s. Even though it's all British.
Oh no, completely. It is one of those sort of sensibilities. It reminds me. Have you ever heard of the band that sort of new, although a very very different take on that material? Have you ever heard of the band Fun Loving Criminals?
Yes, I've heard their song "Fun Loving Criminals," and I think that's about it.
And Scooby Snacks, which is the other really famous. But it's
Yeah.
that same sort of New York sensibility, but whereas like the fun loving criminals are sort of popping wheelies and doing Tarantino heist shit, this is sort of like the Goodfellas unpleasantness sort of going on in the background.
Yeah, like the real part of it.
The real part of it, and there is a grittiness to this. I think is absent from perhaps because of Randall's politics or perhaps because of something else, but there is a grit to this I think is missing from a lot of the other stuff of the period. The only other thing I'm trying to think of another group that particularly of that sort of era that was sort of doing grounded sort of gritty stuff, and drawing a blank actually honestly. Yeah, you got to be getting into sort of industrial sort of stuff like what certain American bands were doing at that period. Obviously or more personal or sort of more lo-fi electronic stuff. But that's sort of a thing that I do feel sort of holds the Lo Fidelity All-Stars away from some of their compatriots, I would say.
Mm-hmm. It is very much like their greatest benefit and what holds them back from a lot of other things, because they are definitely doing something here, and I can recognize it, and they are very different, and it's what makes them stand out, but it's also what do you do with this? Cool. There are some songs you can definitely dance to, like Cool Rock Bass is definitely the first. It's a great intro track to what they do, because it has the energy up the whole time, and it runs 740, but it's fine. It's great. It has that great bass line. It has a beat you can dance to it, and it still gets that grit across without the grit getting in the way and making you think about what you are dancing to. Which is, why a lot of EDM is mindless, because you just want to, you just kind of want to feel the vibe, I guess, is one of the best things.
Yeah, you don't get a lot of, you get some bands who sort of, there is the lyrics are intentional, the lyrics are meant to be part of the package. But, they tend to be off towards, the massive attack sort of things of sort of going, or the or the intention is somewhere in the music or the samples that they're using, rather than what the lyrics are saying. Because as you said, a lot of EDM and a lot of particularly when you get into the 2000s and you start sort of getting dubstep, etc. It's like you don't listen to dubstep for like some commentary. It's music to jump up and down and sort of occasionally dance to. You get sometimes you get more cerebral stuff, and then you get into sort of stuff like IDM, and you get into obviously Aphex Twin, etc. that sort of stuff. But then that starts to be a more, the production is more cerebral, and what the musicians are doing is it has a more intentional thing than just 4 to the floor 200 BPM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they kind of do half and half here, which is, I don't want to say this like specific album meets towards the middle, and that's the problem, because they are definitely doing something here, but its utility is questionable, except for a few songs, just because you can't listen to this and have the groove going and just absorb it sometimes. But you can't kind of just let the groove take you, because there's definitely a shifting mood to that. And I think that comes off in like their next track, Kasparov's Revenge, which starts with a hipster like rant where I'm out there on the streets, man, indoors, in record stores. It's not about punk, it's not about the scene. And then it has a nice little beat. Yeah, this.
Yeah, I liked Kasparov's Revenge. It was one of the better. I think the better tracks on the record. Yeah, it's like really sort of.
Yeah, I like it, but also, it is one of those things that falls in between where it has a groove, and they are definitely doing something, but it's just like starting with the hipster rant and then going into Randall's like semi-nonsense lyrics, but it's also, it's like Underworld giving an image of something without having a complete complete thought about what it is.
Indeed. The sort of problem I have with sorry.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The problem I have with this record, I think, is there is so much being thrown at the canvas, so to speak, at once. That it sort of becomes. There are a couple of tracks I gotta confess on this where it's like I was actively checking like how long the track was, and it's like, don't get me wrong, I think there are elements on this where like the first couple of tracks, and I think the last couple of tracks, and a couple of ones in between, it clicks, it works perfectly. The stream of conscience, that sort of rambling beat poet stuff, and the backing, and what the backing is trying to do, and the interplay between them works brilliantly. And then there's like 3 or 4 tracks which is basically like the digital sort of equivalent of the Metallica Lou Reed album, where it's basically a grumpy middle-aged actual a grumpy middle-aged punk grumbling over sort of noise. And it's like, this is not good. This is somebody either needed to go, Dave, perhaps we go with a different idea on this, or make the instrumental match what he's trying to do. There's sort of like he feels it points quite disconnected from the rest, from what is going on around him, and sometimes that works. Sometimes that absolutely jars and juxtaposes really well, and sometimes it is, we've got this guy off the street from the bar, and he happens to write poetry in his mid-time, and he's going to read some of the poetry now for us.
Yeah, and Kasparov's Revenge is definitely that, and it's just sliding will be a visual metaphor for what's going on.
There's a lot of
sliding, slipstreaming his buzz, and he's out there, he's ready to explode, and he is definitely waiting for the drugs to kick in or something, or they have kicked in and it has been going on for a little too long. And it's kind of one of those. Like, I like the song, but it gets stuck in between what it's supposed to and what it does what it's supposed to do, but it's just, again, what do you do with this? Like, do you just casually listen to it? Do you just like sit into the corner, put your headphones on, turn all the lights out except for one little spotlight, and just experience?
The listening experience of this is an interesting one as well. It's like, it's not something where, like, the Chemical Brothers, you could just have this on in the background, or like Fatboy Slim, you can have this on in the background, or like I keep coming back to Underworld on this. We might have to do them at some point. Like Underworld, it is a a
we
more
absolutely
cerebral.
are going to do Underworld at one point.
Good,
I will
good,
be sure
good.
of that.
Oh, fantastic! No, like Underworld, it is a you could sort of you could put an Underworld album on and just sit there and listen to it in an active way, or something like something like, I don't know, Left Field, where you just have a massive pair of speakers and you sit yourself between the massive pair of speakers. I don't do this at home, kids, but listen. This is sort of like a weird listening experience, because it's like it wants to bring your attention to it, and it wants to be performative, and it wants to be this this beat poet sort of slamming up against the speakers and sort of ranting at you and sort of. And yet it also wants to be something you have on the background of like a pub, and this is the sort of and some of this I feel for certain listeners absolutely this sort of clash of concept is really arresting at points. I find it arresting at points.
Yeah, it is really good, but it is also like really long. These songs could have been half the length, and one could have gotten like their point across, half the time, and then we could have the different songs could have been moods instead of trying to be everything, which is definitely a problem of late '90s stuff, like "Be Here Now" by Oasis, which was so much everything that you can't. Like, they literally just recorded 5 checks, and those were 3 different tracks on one song.
There is just a paucity of just there is like stuff. There is so and Kasparov is a perfect idea of that. It's like, here, have these sort of rambling sort of like screed against hippies, and then there's this electronic music track, and then there's this guy also mumbling his screed over it about drugs, and then there's this other bit, and there's all these 70s movie samples, and it's like there is too much going on at once. It's pulling the listener in different directions. And then you get Blisters on My Brain, which is just the perfect coalescing of just everything.
It is a great dance track, and there is the phrase "disco machine gun" that was so well known that when they did like I don't want to say it's a remix album, but they did kind of like a side album, and it's called. There's something called "Disco Machine Gun 2" on it, and they have they start with a sample of like.
I think it's Woodstock. It's usually so.
Yeah, can we hear an amen? Right on.
Yeah.
And
that was another thing. So many of those.
There's a guitar sample of the song "Cannonball" by the Breeders.
Yeah, which is a great track.
And then there's Then there's his lyrics where he's sniffing lunar dust and injecting, and also probably injecting something, and this is where all the party shit comes in.
Yeah.
It's
just like
you can't even Genius right now is puts a question mark in front of the lyrics and behind the lyrics. Like, is this what he's saying? The active liaison and something wonton.
It's probably lost in the mix deliberately because it's probably fairly oblique drug references and there's a reason this has parental guidance on the front. There are so many drug references.
And it's just there's the image of Disco Machine Gun. Is that a dance? Is he
machine
he actually have a machine gun in the disco or something? That it is just it is.
It's a
the
great
full coalescence of just being in this club, being drugged out, and having a great time. But also, there's this it's not a great club. It's probably owned by some gangsters, and it's very grimy. But it's a great dance tune, and all of this comes together extremely well on this track, and this is kind of probably the second best coalescence of their concept into a really damn good song. And the first one's pretty obvious, and we'll get to that. But
And next,
yeah, Blisters on My Brain is great.
Yeah, and this is, I think, where I came across this. So this has certainly been on like at least one electronic music sample of like the late '90s. Yeah. And then we get to the title track, and the title track is a very strange place, starting with this sort of warped sample, which nobody seems to know where it is from, which is this sort of like, it's got this sort of 70s, I think it might be 70s sort of hammer horror sort of vibe to it, which it goes, never ride the lonely road, above all at sundown, for dusk is where the little men melt into the mountains. Weirdly enough, that actually, this thing that reminded me of is a complete random aside. The Run the Jewels, you know, the title track Run the Jewels by Run the Jewels by Run the Jewels, which is like, which ends with a sample of like Masahiro Tanaka's like Rainbow Goblins, which is just this brilliant sample of just the goblins had awakened. And it's like, what is going on here? Where has this sample come from? And then I got into Japanese jazz fusion, and that's another story.
Yeah.
And this is sort of, I think, where it gets into that most sort of poetic and most like, this is just literally a beat poem to music. And I think it's where the sort of where I certainly think that the lyricism of this is most interesting. The music doesn't quite vibe with it.
It kind of does. Like it's just an odd placing of it, because we just had like us getting like 1,000% like super high, super addictive. And now it's an immediate bring down. It is kind of just this beat poem of going out on the streets and, you know, the feeling of it. And it's spoken into a dictaphone, apparently.
Yeah.
So, again, low fidelity. They're using very fuzzy, very, like, intentionally not 1,000% clean stuff to give it that extra fuzz, that extra feeling of just like decay or like oldness of the surroundings, or, you know, again, the blowing of their mind, how much it's deteriorated.
Yeah, the mind is blown at this point. I think it is like,
yeah,
there is a lot of mind.
Too much disco machine gunning. Yeah,
perhaps. Yeah, but no, this is, and then it's sort of like, this is where the flabbiness of this begins. Although I do feel like I Used to Fall in Love has a really just nice, like, laid back sensibility in comparison to like the rest. This almost feels like it's off a different record.
Yeah,
you know, this is like it's got this really, you know, really late, comparatively sort of really lo-fi thing. I mean, this could come off like some, you know, and then this is guitar solo halfway through it, which I think is the only like major bit of guitar work on the entire record, and is sort of this weirdly beautiful sort of moment on the record, and this sort of, you know, lyrics that sort of speak of, you know, considering, you know, how much we've been pavement pounding and sort of crashing through clubs, and, you know, it's an interesting, you know, sort of juxtaposition where this sort of, you know, turns inward for like a moment.
Yeah. The only problem is, like, we get between this and How to Operate with a Blown Mind, we get 12 minutes of just this sudden bring down, and this, you know, sudden, like, just being in this really down, really, I want to say introverted, introspective mood of, you know, I'm really fucked up right now. I'm not in a really safe place. Like, there might be the question of how did I get here somewhere, but that's not I am just here, and I am just living this grungy existence at the moment. And that's probably too long. And it's just like, what they're doing and what do you do with this are, in clashing, because it's just like some parts of it you can't just listen to it, you have to groove with it, and then there are parts where you sit down, you are just listening to this. And it flips back and forth, and I'm sure probably intentionally, because the ups and downs of like drug stuff.
Yeah, no, totally.
We are past the first half of Requiem for a Dream. We are on the second part where, the eyes are, the pupils are enhancing, but, there's not the, like, super energy of it.
Yeah. And then we get Battle Flag. And then we get Battle Flag. The big hit.
The big hit, yeah. And obviously so. This is the song that has... This is the song if you have heard of Lo Fidelity All-Star. Even if you haven't heard of it, you've probably heard this song, because it was in the trailer of everything late 90s, early 2000s. It was in a trailer to the Charlie's Angels movie, the one with Drew Barrymore, which was its own mess of soundtrack stuff. Like it has Fatboy Slim's Yo Mama on it, and very much, it is very, so just a whole bunch of like high energy moods slammed together.
There's a lot.
It was also on soundtracks to a lot of things. But they have to bleep out the. There's a very, very obvious use of the word motherfucker multiple times. Motherfucking. And, like, obviously they had to figure out how to bleep it out, but not make it a bleep, or there's just this weird electronic noise when, like, there's a mother... when you hear the clean version. And, it is... it is the most catchiest. It is the most. It is clearly the best and most memorable song on the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, this is also like a really weird thing of like a remix of another band's song, sort of basically ending up as your big. It's like almost like the big hit being the cover, sort of like levels of oh dear. Sort of, this has appeared previously on the Pigeon Head remix album Flash Bulb Emergency Overflow Cavalcade of Remixes. Pigeon Head are a very strange band. They're like a funk rock band, sort of like, which isn't the sort of thing you'd expect to fit in here, and then it's like, yeah, why not? And God, this was in so many things. This was in
it started
and recently
being
as
Dancing
well,
at
which
the
is
Blue
very
Iguana.
weird.
And it was in ER.
Yep.
It was in Smallville.
Yep. And The Sopranos.
Oh, yes. Okay. It didn't. IMDb doesn't list it as The Sopranos, but I would not be surprised. It was definitely in Person of Interest, which is one of the last over-the-air TV shows I ever watched. It was Jonathan Nolan, Christopher Nolan's brother, wrote this entire series about like electronic surveillance and AI and stuff like that. And the music producer has the exact same music taste as I do, and it's just song after song that is like Massive Attack, let me think here, Propeller Heads, and just sort of all sorts of stuff that is, this is exactly my shit. And it is about a machine that can predict when murders happen, and it will just spout out a person of interest, whether it's the murderer or the victim, and they have to figure out what it is. And they at least wait until the second to last season to break out "Welcome to the Machine" by Pink Floyd.
Yeah, which is, I think, remarkable restraint.
It is remarkable restraint, because that is like the easiest one, and you think, oh, they're too good for this, and then they just
no, they're not.
They break it out on the season finale of the penultimate season, and it's just like, okay, you were holding on this one until the exact right moment. I respect that. Like, it is very much a B+ TV series where it is made to stay the same, but it has enough plot going on that it constantly changes, it's constantly evolving, and you don't feel like you're watching the same show over and over again. But it is, and it's definitely dark. It is definitely fits, the mood that this is going for, of people who are just really burnt out. I mean, not on drugs, but like the main character is this former military guy who has gone through some shit and has no qualms about killing or doing any kind of, he's kind of getting his conscience back, but he still has to go, he will still break into a basement and shoot a bunch of people if he has to.
Yeah. It was that era of television. But it's also like, which I think says, volumes about like what the period was like. It was also on the trailer for Duke Nukem Forever, which I think every electronic artist got a go at that. I think even the Prodigy got a go at that at some point. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the Battle Flag is great. It is the big shot of energy I think this middle half of the record needs. The problem is that either side of it, it's a very different vibe.
Yeah, it is an extremely different vibe. It is like the first lyrics are "Hallelujah to the 16 loyal fans," and get down on your motherfucking knees. It's about being a band. It is not about being a person, and like not being big, but being popular enough that you can make these demands and put it in a good enough song that people are going to groove to it, as long as they don't listen too closely.
Yeah. And this is then followed by the track Laser Sheep Dip Funk.
Dip Funk, yes.
Which samples about 4 or 5 things, including Leo Schifrin's soundtrack for Quick Draw Kelly and a Wilson Pickett song, which should indicate what on earth is going on in here.
Yeah, what it is, all of the cool stuff and all of the problems in one song.
Yeah.
And I should note, just because this is from personal experience, when I was growing up in the 80s, we had one of those early electronic organs, kind of the Hammond organs. Mm-hmm. And what they came with is these little things you could put in. I think they were records, but they were early drum loops. You could have a salsa, maracas, and they use a couple of those in here. There's that hoo ha, and that gets used again in lo-fi in Ibiza. I remember specifically in the game Frequency, that was there was just one layer you had to activate that was just that little sample loop, and I don't know, it's just this sounds like something. Oh, that sounds like that organ I had that we sold when we were a kid that had all those weird loops on it, where there was the weirdest one was, it was supposed to be some samba thing, some South American thing, but it was just a monkey going and it would just do that over and over, and that was just okay, you could do that loop, and then you could put whatever organ music you wanted while you were performing, and it had it was a very giant, very still 60s 70s synthesizer, but it was still in the league of a Hammond organ. It couldn't do that much. It could do some things, but it wasn't it was very early electronic music, and it was very primitive. So that there's that in there mixed in with all of the other samples, and
I'm actually surprised there's not the Yeah Woo sample on this at this point, because there's
Yeah.
everything bloody else.
I think there is a Yeah Woo in there.
There is a Yeah Woo. It was obligatory.
It's Woo Yeah.
Woo Yeah. The It Takes Two sort of like, which I think is a James Brown sample. Yeah.
Yes. But the song is too much. I do like it.
Yeah.
Sometimes. It's like Be Here Now. I like it sometimes, and there's sometimes where I don't need this. This song keeps changing 4 or 5 times. Like, it starts with this beat, and then there's a little mid break in there, and then it just gets heavier, and then there's a heartbeat.
Yeah,
and then it breaks again, and then there's something else.
It's one of these records that I think, like Be Here Now, if you listen to like a couple of tracks at the same time, it's fine. If you try and listen to this entire record at once, it's like being hit over the head with a pipe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there is too much of this.
They'll change what weapon you're being hit with every time.
Yes.
And then eventually they're just going to inject you with something that doesn't feel really good at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And then hit you with I don't know, one of those inflatable hammers from amusement parks.
Yeah,
but it's like that for like
then laugh at you.
And then it's that for like 70 minutes basically. It's like like Be Here Now. There is too much of it.
Yeah, it's like when I brought Charlotte on the anime on this show it's just
God.
It's just it's a lot of things at once, and sometimes it really doesn't succeed at all of these things at once. So I just need somebody else to experience it. So I've talked to somebody who's experienced this, and I do like the album overall, and I brought it on, but it's just like one of those interesting things, like the DJ Shadow album I brought on. It's just like, what the hell do you make of this? Like, what is this? I mean, it's something. There's definitely something here. They have something, but either they have too much of it, or they have too little, or they have both at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, no, certainly, and sometimes you bring some really interesting stuff. I mean, this is interesting. Don't get me wrong. This is a record I would not necessarily have listened to without you. But obviously, like, there is sometimes you bring me something that's like, oh my god, there is so much of this. This is amazing. Throws bits of album around, and like, there's some of the time it's like, there is a lot of this.
There's a lot of this mood, and it's a mood. I'm not sure if I need 9 minutes and 37 seconds of it, but it is a mood.
Yeah. That's the kind of the track I think I have the biggest problem with, actually, is all 9 and a bit minutes of Vision Incision. But then even that, it gets
it has parts of it that are extremely like interesting and good. Yeah. But there's 9 minutes and 37. Yeah. And we skipped Will I Get Out of the Jail, which it's okay, it's fine. It's like this weird vibe of I'm in a holding cell, and then suddenly there's like this porn groove in there. Like you hear people going, yeah, and then there's like the 70s kind of groove in the background, like makes it sound like it's a sex film. I don't know if that's implying anything or if it's just like something they're putting in, but it's just like it's just that this, it's okay. It's just like, try not to think about it too much. It is just a vibe, or I say that too much, vibe, mood, whatever else. Like, I know that's annoying
it's a vibe.
But it is definitely not like a complete song in the way like a lot of the dance tunes here. It is mainly getting across the like emotion of the night's almost over, and I have been physically taken out of whatever I am, and I'm being held here. And then that leads into Vision Incision, which is just like, okay, I am out of here, and now I am left with my own mind. And I don't like being left with my own mind, but it is 9 minutes of 37 seconds of it.
The best bit for me is about sort of 6 minutes in, where it just locks into this groove for like 2 minutes. And it's like, and it's just like, yes, thank you, go.
Thank you.
Just
There is some movement here. There is something besides this woman saying, "Oh, can't you see?" or whatever it is she's saying.
Yeah. Oh no, hell yeah.
Him just rambling on and on.
Yeah.
But then that goes on for too long.
Oh god, yeah, and it's sort of like, and then it feels like, yes. Can we leave this now? No. Okay.
Nope. We have to
we're
do
still
like
here?
an outro that's 2 minutes or something.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and there's another track. Wonderful. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a. Like, it's an outro track, but like everything else, it's a little long here. I do actually like Nighttime Story, though.
Ditto.
I do think it's a good ending, and it's just kind of... It's very much like a bedtime story for a druggie. Or something like that. It has
slow moment of sobering up. Yeah, it's just like, oh god.
Sobering up and like, what the fuck have I done with my life? And like the feeling that you are dying or dead. And it has very much the funeral home organ in the background.
The organ is a good touch to this, but it is like it's still 4 minutes or 4 and a bit minutes long, and it's
it could have been like, this is an outro and it's still 4 minutes, and that tells you kind of how albums like during this time were going. And I've actually had a nightmare with this music. There's like I know it's like there's this Nosferatu vampire creature going around, and like it's invisible, but I can feel it, and it's constantly saying, "I can hear the music tearing into my bone," which is from this. And it's probably a quote of something else, or a sample of something else, or something like that. But it is very much like the end. It's the end. There is something calming about it, but there's also something nightmarish about it. It's just like, this is the end, and I might be dying, and I'm probably not going to heaven if I do, but this is the end. It is finally over, and there is something to relax in that, if you can call it relaxing.
Completely. And then the record ends, and it's like, there is a bonus track called "Taking Fear from Behind," but we didn't listen to that. It's not on
it was
Spotify.
not part of my album. Like, I bought the original when it hit America. From Sam Goody's.
Where it hit
Sam Goody's in Ames, Iowa. It doesn't exist anymore.
No, where it hit 115th on the Billboard Top 200. Yes.
Little bigger in England, but
a little bigger in England, where it hit number 15, which is respectable for that period. I mean, it's why not? Yeah.
Yeah, there were still lots of money going into music. So if you made it to 15 in one of the two countries, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
But obviously, that doing okay might have not been what Dave Randall wanted. He didn't want like to become. I don't know. There's only suggestion. Like, you can guess from the attitude that this guy wasn't expecting or wanting to be on top of the pops or something like that. He wasn't. That there's probably the feeling that, oh no, they're using my music in movies. They're doing this. I'm gonna become like sellout garbage, and he just kind of left. And with one of the keyboardists, and they did a
Yeah.
group for a while. They did work with other people. They probably show up now and then, but nothing they did ever got big or noticeable
Yeah.
again. And I think that's how they wanted it. And I
Yeah.
think I don't
Yeah.
know. I think there is
It certainly feels
it,
with John Stone as with Randall. It's like these two were definitely a part of this particular direction of the band, and the moment they left, it went right. We're just doing
yeah.
this
I was
other
trying
thing.
to find the Lo Fidelity All-Stars webpage from when Don't Be Afraid of Love came out, because they did put like an overtly honest note at the website that the night before our world tour, our main creative mind left. I couldn't find it because everything was you know,
Yeah.
oh god, Flash. Flash that time. Everything was flat.
Yeah.
And even like the stuff that replaces Flash that's supposed to use it doesn't work from then, because it was like previous versions that like before that were, they weren't like the simple easy earlier ones that they can just take and use, but they weren't the like later ones where everything is tuned towards this. So I couldn't find exactly, and of course they don't have the text on the webpage because that's GeoCities shit. You don't just have text on a webpage you can copy or you could look up. Why would you have that? It's the future. Everything is Flash. Everything has to, we have to have like music on our MySpace pages.
Yeah.
Grandpa.
Remember when they dropped all of that for oops, we dropped all of that stuff, and it was like, oops.
Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, that's the thing, and they basically just went, yes, yes, indeed, and then they just went and did other stuff for the next quarter century.
And to the rest of the band's credit, they figured out what they were going to do. Like, Don't Be Afraid of Love is perfectly fine. I mean, it's kind of reaching for a lot of things at once.
Yeah.
Like, there will be like this Jackson 5 S track, and then they'll have this like hardcore like dance club thing, and it'll just keep on going on like that. And I like that their first track, they had a Randall sound-alike to ease them, and then they go into the second track, which is this it's very good, but it is very polished and very just like you could hear this at any dance club if they took out the ringing phone that they put during the chorus. Just this very safe dance groove that feels 70-ish, which fits them. So they at least had some sort of intro that was familiar before they just drop you off a cliff and nope, this is an extremely different band.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, it's very much like a... I don't think I would have listened to this without without you pointing to it. This is a very you record in the best possible way of putting it.
In the best way. It's just it's what you think of when we go into my music taste, where it's the Japanese, the British, and the Foo Fighters.
Oh, yeah.
This definitely falls within all of my British stuff, where it's just there's Garbage, there's Underworld. There's half albums of the Chemical Brothers. It's techno albums are very weird in that there's half an albums which are brilliant, and then there's the second half which is and that's a lot of Chemical Brothers. You could find one terrific album if you just put 3 Chemical Brothers albums together, and then cut whatever else there is. But this falls definitely within I don't know why I go to Northern England for the bands when I'm very not liking what's on the radio, because I went to Oasis, and then I went to Then I went to Robbie Williams, who is Northern Scum, self-proclaimed. And now I am here at Lo Fidelity All-Star in 2002, where, like, I am turning off MTV for good. And, like, I'm not listening to the radio. I am just like, what do they have out here?
Yes.
That I can still listen to and not, like, hate myself.
Yeah, totally. It's as I said, it's a very you record. And I enjoyed parts of it. I think parts of it were very, very good. I think parts of it are somewhat self-indulgent to interesting to sort of like, oh god, there is too much of this. Please less high fidelity, low fidelity all starring. Thank you.
Yeah, it is definitely something I would have loved to have seen them follow up on. I'm sure a lot of people would have. Like, this was waiting for the second album that was just going to explode, and then they were going to become, like, the greatest band. Like, this was going to get funneled into, like, their OK Computer or something like that.
That's something building upon that, definitely, yeah.
Something building upon that, and it was going to be, The Dark Knight. And it was just going to be this, like, masterpiece of this dark disco, fuzzy 70s, like, warm, vinyl sound, whatever this was going to change into. But because Randall skipped out and then the sheriff skipped out, they had to become everybody else for an album until they kind of relaxed into their own identity. And, it's a shame, but, people... As long as people are doing what they want and as long as they're happy. And Northern Stomp is a very good album. I really like it. And Don't Be Afraid of Love is good. And, like, those songs get into my head. I like them. It's a weird record to listen to once because, like, the tonal disconnect between tracks is... They try, but it's not all there.
No.
Yet. It is... They are throwing darts at things, but they are still very talented. The songs are very polished. They're very nice, and they have the kind of sound they're going for. But it's just like they're still throwing darts at what they want to be, what they're going to be. So, but I would recommend you check out this. Like, you don't have to fall in love with it. I'm sure you'll find some stuff you'll like very much. And I'm sure you'll find stuff you'll like very much in their other work. They are worth checking out. They are very good. And they are, extremely talented at what they do in creating this specific kind of sense of late 70s pop mixed with the harder stuff, but not quite. We're not getting into like Pink Floyd or something super heavy or like specifically deep and meaningful or poetic. There's still like, a feeling of decay or something in there, but there is still a dance groove and there is stuff worth there. There's something that they have that somebody doesn't, that a lot of other people don't have.
That's fair. As I said, good record. I enjoyed a lot of it. I enjoyed a lot of it. Some of it I think could be better, but that's the nature of a lot of 90s records.
Yes, and there are just sometimes when you'll wake up one day and it's just like, I need this song that I don't really like when I listen to the full album, but I need this right now, and I'll just listen to it. And then because of its length, it'll be like, okay, I got my fill of that for the day, and move on with my life.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, totally. It's one of those dip in and out albums like Be Here Now, where I think you can like listen to a couple of tracks and then go, right, I'm going to go away and then listen to a little bit more of this at some other point. Yeah.
Now, Be Here Now is like a freight train. It's like feeling a freight train in slow motion for this one, which sometimes it's really intense, and then sometimes you're just like, okay, I felt this. I have been feeling this for the past 20 minutes. Can we move on?
This is more like a dilapidated sort of night bus, sort of cutting its way through the city. But yeah, the sort of same.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Force of energy. So anyway, we are we are gonna do, obviously, next episode we are going to talk about Hakuroki, which is a Japanese anime about demon samurai pretty boys. But I have picked my next music episode, and we are going from like a lesser known record to the highest selling record in Japanese music history.
Okay.
We are going to be talking about Utada Hikaru's second album, First Love.
Okay.
Which is going to be a very this is very much a me episode. This is going to be
I mean,
very
I
late.
like her music. It's just
she's fantastic.
My biggest connection with it, which is Kingdom Hearts, which I don't like, but I do like her music.
Yeah,
I do like her music that is attached to it.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
There is that.
This is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be a very much from one extreme to the other. This is from very urbane sort of techno to super polished, super slick Japanese pop music. Yeah,
we do that.
This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. This is what we do.
This is what we do, and this is why our audience is limited, because we don't have this one thing that we indulge our fandom every week on.
No. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
Yes.
And then Joe's gonna have like an anime episode in between those, which we will get to at some point once we've talked about Pretty Boy Samurai.
Okay.
Cool. We will see you on the next.
Should we do our social media stuff?
Oh yeah, sorry, social media. We can be found on social media at Not So Final Prod on Twitter. We are still on Twitter. I will get round to building a Blue Sky at some point, because why not? And on Patreon at The Thom and Joe Show. Tom is spelled with a H. If you have we've actually started getting people going, would be really cool if you could do this. Well, we can do things. We can do things if you obviously want us to, but obviously if you sign up to the Patreon, they are likely. Yeah.
If you are intentionally giving us shit, you will have to pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
Or a lot more. There are certain shows I will not do unless you give me a lot of money. Yeah.
Or if there is a limit to what we would do. We're not doing all of One Piece. Are you insane? Yes. We'll happily do one season's. If you want us to do, I don't know, season 1 of something like Bakuto Test or something, or season 1 of K-On! Fair enough. Yeah, we will do that. If you want us to review, I don't know, all of Monster, although Joe is probably jumping up and down going, yes, absolutely, all of Monster, perfect.
I don't have my Netflix anymore, so I don't have the easy way to watch Monster anymore, but I have definitely watched it. I have already watched it, but you have to watch things again, because everything gets blended, and so you have to re-separate things.
Mm-hmm. But Monster would be a little bit more, because it is 52 plus episodes, and we would be like, that's a large amount of our time spent watching a series. If you have a question, drop us a message on the Patreon, or drop us a message on YouTube and go, would you be willing to do XYZ? And we will go, right, yes, absolutely. Go to the Patreon, sign up to our Patreon, and request this episode, and you'll get a Patreon episode like the other people who've done it over the years. But we have limits. We can only do so much at once. We both, unfortunately, this is not currently our job at the moment. But that's hey, if we get enough patrons, if you all sign up to us, it'd be brilliant. We'd be going, oh my god, yes, absolutely, we will talk about anime every week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't be like
Fantastic.
Caravan of Garbage and like just do something every week and then we have a
Yeah.
bunch of extra shows.
Yeah.
Like, you can give us a like Caravan of Garbage,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, like I like it and
yeah.
subscribe and hello to the Caravan of Garbage lads. But yeah, this is
Hello.
the thing. Like this is the thing. We can do like more complex stuff, but you know, at some point, you know, we do this because we love doing it. But you know, it's nice to see the bank balance go up.
Yes.
But yeah, we will be back with another. You know, we've also got, you know, anniversary episodes coming up, which we will probably be doing this summer and then releasing in order, because otherwise October is going to kill us both.
Yes.
Yeah. So we will see you on the next Thom and Joe show. I've been Tom,
I've been Joe.
and try not to operate heavy machinery with a blown mind. We'll see you later.
Yes. No shaking hands with danger.
No shaking hands. Machine guns.